Okay, we're live. This is Relatives Fight CPS. I'm attorney Vince Davis. I'm joined tonight by my co-host, Miss Georgette Truen, who is a previous victim of CPS and an advocate for parents these days. And of course, we're joined tonight by Colette. Colette apparently is a grandmother in a county here in California who's trying to get grandchildren placed with her from CPS. Did I get that right, Colette?
Partially. I'm in Massachusetts, and I'm a family friend.
Family friend and children are grouped, and relatives are grouped together. So tell me what's going on in your case there in Mass.
Okay, so I presently have the sibling that I'm trying to get out of foster care, her two siblings, through the probate court here in the county that I live in. I have guardianship of them through the probate court. For the last 11 months, I've been fighting to get their baby sister out of foster care and have been unsuccessful, unfortunately.
How old is the child that you're trying to get out of foster care?
She is currently 11 months. She'll be 1 next month.
Okay, so how did that happen? How did you get the siblings, and then how did you not get the youngest child?
Well, that's the $10,000 question, Attorney Davis. So Mom was still pregnant with the baby when I got custody of her two older siblings. She then had the baby last August. I contacted DCF. They blatantly ignored my phone calls. We then, throughout the next several months, applied to be foster parents through DCF. We were denied without anybody ever coming to our home and doing a home study or anything. We were denied. The reasons for the denial were we had a German Shepherd dog, which we haven't had in 7 years. And we've had 2 previous kinship placements with this department of CPS in our local area here that have both been very successful. So honestly, I think that the foster parents want to adopt her.
Right, that sounds like it. But what I don't get is if you have the siblings, why wouldn't the social workers place the new child with you?
Right, and that's what baffles everybody involved, including the probation officer that the judge just ordered to come do a home study at our home. So we did file, we hired an attorney with your advice, filed a motion to intervene, and it was denied. So that's where we are today.
Did you talk to the attorney about appealing that decision to deny your motion to intervene?
I did not, because I did not know that was an option.
Definitely. You know, I now remember your speaking to you about this maybe a few weeks ago. Did you contact the attorney that I suggested in Boston?
Kevin Seaver?
Yeah, right.
I had heard you mention him on your show in the past, and I did call his office several times. Unfortunately, I haven't had any luck getting through to him.
Okay. Well, you know what? After the show and tomorrow, remind me by emailing me or telling Georgette to contact him directly. I have his direct number, and we're also Facebook friends. So we Facebook message each other sometimes about different topics. So
that would be wonderful.
Remind me, and I'll make sure that he gives you a call. Are you actually in Boston? Are you actually in Boston, or are you?
We're outside of Boston. City? We're about 40 miles outside of Boston. We're in Plymouth, where the Pilgrims landed.
Okay, so you're probably still in his wheelhouse there. If you're only, sounds like you're less than an hour from Boston.
Correct.
So, we will put you in contact with him. Make sure that you talk to him, see if he can help you. You know, I don't know if the last time we talked about civil rights lawsuits, and I know this isn't the civil rights channel. That's tomorrow night at 7. But I would guess that the 2 children that you have guardianship of might have a big fat civil rights case against the county there for not placing their sibling with them. Have you talked to any attorneys about that?
I have not yet, because my number one goal is to try to get her with us first and foremost. But I will, and I have heeded your advice in regards to filing a complaint with the Department of Health and Human Services, I believe.
Yes. Did
So
you do that?
I did do that. I just did that today.
Okay. And did you do that online?
Yes, I did that online.
Okay. You know, do me a favor and describe that procedure for our viewers, because it's an important procedure, and I advise that to, quite a few people, and very few people do it, I think. So tell me
Oh,
exactly what you did.
sure. And now you know I'm not very computer savvy, so if I can do it, anybody can do it. It's a very simple process. You just go onto their website and you fill out the form, and it's as simple as that.
Okay, what website did you go to?
Just I googled the exactly what you always talk about on your channel is the Department of Health and Human Services in Massachusetts, the state I live in, and then it came right up with their website. So mine comes up with gov.mass. That's how I know it's a legit website. It's actually in my state of Massachusetts department. So we'll pull that up. If you went to any government website within the state you live in, it pulls it right up. It's the same website, and then you go in through there. If that makes
And
any sense.
no, it makes sense. And how long did it take you to fill out the complaint form?
Less than 10 minutes from start to finish.
And did they give you, as part of the complaint form, did they ask you, hey, what's your problem? What's your complaint?
I'm sorry,
Did
you broke up.
As part of the complaint process, did the form ask you to explain what the problem was?
It did not. It just asked for my personal information. It did not ask me. Oh, and you know what? It may have asked me. I believe now that you mention it, it did ask me what a department. Like I said, I have a complaint against CPS in my local area.
Okay, now here's a little thing that I want you to try to pay attention to this. It sounds like you made a complaint to a state agency. In other words, an agency within the state of Massachusetts. The website I wanted you to go to was the Federal Department of Health and Human Services. Now, it doesn't sound like you went to that website, but Google Federal Department of Health and Human Services, and if you didn't file the complaint at that website, go ahead and file it again at that website, because it's different. There's a difference between the state and the federal government, and there's different investigations. Okay? And the other site that I advised you to fill out was the U.S. Department of Justice, another federal agency, and they have a civil rights division. I actually think they now have a CPS division because of all of the complaints that are being made against CPS nationwide by many, many people. So also go and file a complaint there and ask for an investigation. Because if you don't ask for these investigations and these reviews, social workers will keep doing what they're doing.
Right.
And what they did in your case, I would have to say from my experience, now I'm not licensed in Mass, but from my experience, just based upon the federal regulations, they should have contacted you and given you the opportunity to raise these siblings together. I mean, it's a shame that, they're going to go through a process and there's a good possibility that, the child won't be placed with you. You said you hired an attorney, and I know I've talked to Kevin Seaver about this before. California has something called a 388 petition, Welfare and Institutions Code, Section 388. And they have a special form. I think it's a JV 180. And Kevin and I, this is a long time ago, but we talked about something similar that's in the state of Massachusetts. So it wasn't a motion to intervene. It was called something else, but Kevin knew exactly what we were talking about. Now, don't get me wrong. A motion to intervene is one strategy you can go by, all right? But you can also file the equivalent to what's a 388. And you can, the kids that you have could also possibly file something because they're really the aggrieved parties. Right? It's, they're the ones that are going to lose out, the kids, because they won't be able to grow up together.
Even though they're minors?
Yeah. Minors can file complaints and minors can sue. They have to do it. They have to do it through an adult, and most likely that would be you. But yes, they have legal rights as well. As a matter of fact, their rights to be with that sibling are stronger than any rights that you might have.
Right. And I have read a little bit from the beginning because, like I said, this case started a year ago. And I've continued to watch your show all the time. And that's where I've got any information from of how to move forward. But I think pretty much everybody that calls into the show or that I've heard on your channel complains about the same thing, it being hard to find an attorney that does the juvenile dependency, that specializes in that area. And as a matter of fact, it's called DCF here, CPS there, same thing. They contacted other family members just about 2 months ago and said that the child was getting ready to be placed up for adoption, and asked if any of those family members were interested in adopting her. And those family members in turn all brought me their papers from DCF. So like I had stated earlier, we had filled out the application to become foster parents through the Department of Children and Family here, and we're now on our second application, and 85 days later, we're waiting to get a response from them. Have you ever heard of third-party custody, Attorney David?
No, I haven't. That must be a concept in your state. That's not. It's probably called something different in California. But describe it for me. I'll tell you if they have that in California.
Okay. Well, how it was described to myself and my husband at the last court hearing by the probation department was that they would send a probation officer out to our home to do a home study because DCF refused to do a home study. And when they did that, the probation officer would then come back, report to the court, and if it was a good report that came back with nothing bad about our family, I guess, or our housing situation, that the judge could then grant us custody of the child through the court. So we had that process.
Yeah, they have that in California. It's where someone else does the home study a private social worker if the county or state social worker doesn't want to do one for your family. And then your report and the report for the foster parents is put before the judge, and the judge can make a decision. What I've seen successful here in California is where more than one relative has gotten that private, they call it a private home study. And, they filed that, maybe 5 or 6 different relatives saying that we want the child. And, the judge then has to make a decision. But just by probabilities, if you have 5 or 6 relatives and only one foster parent, one of those relatives has a bigger, probability of success than just one foster parent. And then they have the law going for them as well. And the law is, we want to place children with relatives or family friends when they can. Now, the reason why you qualify is because the siblings that you have are considered relatives.
Right.
Right. So, they have enough standing, in my opinion. If you were in California, that would be the case. That's why I can't wait to put you in touch with Kevin Siever there in Boston, because he is a tiger. I mean, he is relentless in the way he represents his clients there in Boston.
I would be more than thrilled to be able to get in touch with Attorney Siever. That would be tremendous, and I appreciate your help with that.
Sure. Did you have any other questions for me this evening?
I actually do, if I may. I know you talk about evidence a lot and what justice is, and it's not what's in our hearts, but it's what is required justice in the court of law. So my question regarding that is, how do we go to court and be able to present our case with the judicial standings? Is that what it is?
Oh, well, the judicial standard. Okay.
Judicial standard, correct.
Okay, so there's 2 things you got to keep in mind. The procedural rules and the evidentiary rules. Now, unfortunately, Colette, you have asked me a question that's tantamount to asking your doctor, hey, how do you do open heart surgery?
Right.
Well, how do I explain that to you? You didn't go to medical school. You've never done surgery before. I can generally tell you the concept, but it'd be virtually impossible for me to, in a 60-minute show, explain all of this to you.
Fair enough.
It could be 60 hours. It could be 60 hours, it's just one of those things. But I'll try to explain to you just generally. And either this will help you or it will completely blow your mind. All right. So first of all, your state has something called the rules of evidence. And they control probably 90 to 100% of all judicial proceedings. All right, in your state. So let me give you an example. This is the best way I can do it. This happened many years ago. A guy came to me on a Saturday morning, and he had just lost a case Friday in court, but he had called me, so he went into court thinking, the judge is going to do what's fair and just. And he said, Mr. Davis, I had the papers, I had the documents to show the judge, to show that I'm the better parent and should have custody of this child. And the judge just wouldn't look at the documents. And he said the judge must be corrupt, must have gotten a payoff or something like that. And I told him, and I tried to be gentle about it. I said, no, the judge wasn't corrupt. The judge did the exact right thing. I said, the judge followed the rules of evidence. You can't just walk into court and say, hey, judge, look at these papers, and then decide for me. First of all, there's no foundation to the documents. They're hearsay. There are a lot of evidentiary problems. Now, there's ways to easily solve that type of problem in an evidentiary standard. You could subpoena in the custodian of record of that business. It was a school records, to say, yeah, these are true and correct copies, Judge, of our records that show that the mother's a terrible parent when it comes to schooling. But the guy hadn't done that. All he had was the papers, and he thought the fair and just way was for the judge just to read the papers and make a decision for him. So that's the easiest example I can tell you. But when you go, if you're in California, if your case was in California, you would want to file a 388 with proper evidence to show. First, you have to ask yourself, what evidence do you have to show? Well, in California, the test for a 388 is a change of circumstances and something called best interests.
Right.
Okay. Now, there's many definitions. Many different scenarios for what a change in circumstance is and what best interests are. So you would want to probably get 2 columns on a piece of paper and write down all of the ways that this is a changed circumstance, and then all of the ways it's in the best interest of the child. Then, for each item, you would want to ask yourself, what is the best piece of paper or the best person to prove that fact in a court of law? So you could easily say, Colette, placing the child with me is the best thing. Everybody knows that. Not true. Not true in a courtroom, because a courtroom is a false sense of reality. The only thing that comes into a courtroom are things that are admissible evidence, right? So if you don't have admissible evidence of something that you believe is true, you're out of luck. Now, what would show that, a child to be placed with siblings, how would that be best for the child? Right? How would that be best? Well, everybody knows that. No, that's not true. You might want to get to show some type of law, some type of legislative intent, some type of article, right, written by a psychologist, right, or a counselor. Maybe a declaration from a psychologist or a counselor saying, hey, I'm a licensed psychologist in the state of Massachusetts. I've been practicing 25 years, and these are the reasons why it would be best for that little girl to be placed with her siblings. And then they, with their license, will tell you why. Now, unfortunately, Colette, you are a civilian. You probably aren't a psychologist, so you wouldn't be able to testify to that. Although, you might think it's common sense. There are very few things in the law that are common sense. Very few. Everything else is what they call statutory or supported by case law or the evidence code. So that's how you build your case. Building a case is just like building a log cabin or a block wall. You got to start at the bottom with a foundation, and you got to build on it and build it up. What so many people do is they go to court and say, well, placing the kid with the siblings, obviously that's the right thing to do. That's, maybe on a scale of 1 to 10, that might be a 3, a 2. Right? You got to show some evidence why that's true. And here's the evidence has to tie in to the kid, not to your siblings, but to the kid. What benefits would that kid get from growing up with the siblings? You can't just say, oh, the judge will know that. Oh, the judge will figure it out. Not true. You got to have the evidence. And sometimes that's expert testimony. Sometimes that's testimony of people that know the kid. Sometimes it might be the kid's therapist. In this case, the kid's too young. But, a psychologist who could declare to that. You walk into court and you don't have the evidence, they're going to boot you out. Today I was talking on the phone to a county council, a person who represents the social workers in California in another county. And we have a hearing coming up. And she said to me, well, I got your witness list and I got your exhibit list. You have a lot of witnesses. You have a lot of exhibits. She said that to me as if to say, that's not how we usually do things. And I thought to myself that you're not used to parents in these situations fighting back with evidence. You know, she didn't say this, but she was like telling me, well, why are you calling all of these witnesses? Well, I'm calling these witnesses because I want to win. I want to produce evidence. You know, social workers are not the only witness in a case. So many cases are done as if the social worker and the social worker's report are the only witness and exhibits and evidence in the case. It's not true. You know, people ask me all the time, you know, how did I lose that case? I said, well, who were your witnesses? Well, they only had one witness, the social worker. I said, well, what documentary evidence was gone into evidence? And when I explain what documentary evidence, I mean, what pieces of paper were given to the judge? Oh, just the social worker's 3 reports. I said, you didn't have any reports? No. You didn't have any witnesses? No. Well, by definition, you're going to lose, period, end of story, because you don't have any evidence. Do you get it, Colette?
I believe I absolutely do, sadly, because I've asked our attorney, what is our game plan? Which, again, I directly got from you. You have to have a plan and then a strategy of how you're going to execute that plan. And his response back to me was, I know the law. I know what I'm doing, but never explained it to me. And we talked 5 minutes before we were walking into the courtroom.
Okay, so I don't know your attorney, and don't say his or her name. I'm not here to embarrass anyone. But those are not good responses as far as I'm concerned. Because, listen, everybody knows the law. The judge knows the law. What differentiates you and determines whether you're going to win is the evidence. Like, what evidence was in your motion to intervene? You can't just walk into court and say, hey, judge, I got 2 siblings and I want to intervene. If that's all you said, if I'm the judge, I deny your motion. Right? Judges aren't supposed to dig into the case to figure out what's fair. Okay, they're supposed to determine disputed issues of fact and law. Disputed issues of fact and law, not what is the law. So if you went into court and you didn't have the right evidence, your motion's going to be denied. Okay, and if you get a chance to talk to Kevin Seaver in Boston, have him go over that motion, because he might be able to refile it for you with real evidence.
Wonderful. I will do that.
This year will be 35 years. This December will be 35 years for me. I have something to confess to you. It probably took me a good 10 years to realize and understand what I just told you. A lot of people and a lot of young attorneys think the law is where it's at. For example, I get a lot of comments. I get a lot of, from these social media platforms, I get a lot of questions. And everybody wants to focus on the law. Look, the law is important, don't get me wrong. But it's the facts, it's the evidence that changes a loser into a winner, or changes a winner into a loser. You got to have the evidence. And then you have to, obey the procedural laws on how to present it to the court.
Perfect.
Last night Last night, I didn't mention this last night on last night's show. We were talking about recorded evidence, videotaping the social worker or audio recording her. And I didn't mention this because I just assumed people would know this. I don't know why. That was a wrong assumption on my part. And it came up today in a conversation with someone on the telephone. Did you know that if you tape record legally, if you legally tape record a social worker and you want to play that video in evidence, in California at least, you have to have it transcribed. If you don't have it transcribed as well as show the video, it's not admissible.
Oh.
Can you imagine you got the social worker making great admissions in your favor, and the tape is not admissible because you forgot to transcribe it? So there's little things like that that turn winners into losers.
How do you get that, Mr. Davis, to be transcribed? Where do you need to go?
I use a company called rev.com, REV.com. They'll transcribe anything. And they're really good. They have a high, like the 95+% accuracy rate. And they're very inexpensive. When they first came out, they would do your transcriptions for free. Now I think it's, it was like 50 cents a minute, then it became $1 a minute. I think that's where it is now. But that's still cheap compared to getting it transcribed, by a transcriptionist here in, your community. By the way, rev.com is a site where it's international site, where the labor that they use is a cheaper than American labor, so they can do it, a lot cheaper and charge you a lot cheaper. But check it out.
When you say if it's done legally, Mr. Davis, what do you mean by legally?
In California, now it's different in different states. When you can audio tape or videotape someone. Last night we were talking about videotaping the social worker out in the public, like in a parking lot or a park, where there was little expectation of privacy. Right. But we can't go into the office.
I'm sorry to interrupt you,
Can't
but
go
what
into the
about if there
office.
is no... I'll let you finish.
No. Go ahead.
What if the area where the monitoring should be at is a closed area, and the investigator or the person cannot get in the home to monitor the visit? How would anyone go about that?
In California, unless you have their permission, you couldn't do it. But I don't want to get off on that tangent. I want to go back to Colette and back to her question and my answer of what she has to do to try to win. Okay? So Colette, my
Yes,
answer
sir.
about the evidence, my answer about the evidence, does that help you at all?
Very much so.
Okay,
Absolutely.
so what I gave you was a little structure, to try to work with. All right. Now, what I didn't tell you, because I'm not familiar with the rules of evidence in Massachusetts, but if they're similar to California or the same as California, sometimes when you come up with the witness, you're going to have to subpoena that witness into court. Right. Your attorney is going to have to try to talk to them before coming into court to see if they can say what you think they're going to say. Sometimes, you subpoena a witness in and you haven't talked to them. You think they're going to say A, B, C, and they get on the stand and say X, Y, Z.
Right.
Right. You just shot yourself in the head. So, and sometimes, documents are the same way. You want to make sure that they say what you think they say. So there's a lot of, footwork, investigative footwork that's done on these cases in preparation. At my office, either the attorney or the paralegals, and we have some assistants as well, they make tons of telephone calls prior to us going into court. For example, I was talking to a county council today about a hearing coming up. And the reason why I called the county council was because I wanted to try to get information from her about her client's position. And she decided to try to get information from me, like, hey, Vince, are you really calling all these witnesses? We're going to be here all day, basically, was what she was saying to me. And I thought, well, yeah, we're going to be here all day. Because there's more than one witness in these cases. You know, the one witness being the social worker. There's other witnesses. There's more than one piece of documentary evidence in cases. You know, there's more in life than the social worker's report,
Mm-hmm.
right? And sometimes you'll get reports from social workers that will say something about medical records or school records or what the landlord said, or, you know, or what the employer said. And the employer or the landlord or the doctor, they didn't say any of that. I've actually had that happen on more than one occasion.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I think I told a story last week where the report said that the social worker talked to the minor's therapist. And then it had a quote from the minor's therapist that was a derogatory quote against my client, who was the mother. And the mother said, you know, Mr. Davis, I don't believe that the therapist said that. And my first reaction was, well, you know, suck it up. It's there in the report. And she said, Mr. Davis, would you call the therapist and verify that? She had to ask me like 2 or 3 times. Because I didn't believe the social worker would lie or make a mistake like that. I called the therapist up and I said, hey, I'm Vincent Davis. I represent the mother, blah, 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 you know, small talk introductions. And I said, I got a question for you. She said, sure. I said, did you ever talk to social worker, you know, Jane Doe? No, I've never talked to her. I think I asked, did you ever meet with Jane Doe? She says, no, I never met with Jane Doe. She said, I don't even know who Jane Doe is. I said, you've never talked to the social worker on this case, Jane Doe? She said, no. I said, not even on the phone? No. Texts? No. Emails? No. I said, well, she quoted you and she said that you said blah, blah, blah. She said, I never said that. And by the way, I wouldn't have never said it because it's not true. Not true. Like, are you kidding me? And, you know, I pulled out the report. I said, look, this is what the thing says. Did you say that? She said, Mr. Davis, I told you I didn't say it. I've never met the lady. So sometimes you got to test what's in those reports, right? You know, to have a contest in a trial in these cases, it's a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
And the question becomes, you know, whether you and your client or you and your attorney want to do that work. You know, Colette, do you know who Jerry Spence is? GerrySpence? Have
I
you ever
do
heard that
not.
name before?
Was it the
Okay.
gentleman that you went to a seminar for?
Very good.
She follows you very well, Mr. Davis.
Okay. You're looking at my website, I see. All right. So for those of the people that don't know, Jerry Spence is considered the greatest trial lawyer of all time in the United States by a lot of people. All right. He has a trial lawyers college in Wyoming
Mm-hmm.
that, you know, once or twice a year, people gather for approximately a month without any connection to the outside world and just become, you know, immersed in trial. And one of Jerry's theories is that you can win just about any case. You can win any case. The problem is putting in the time, the effort, and the money. So let me give you an example. Jerry, one of his last big trials was several years ago, and he was representing an attorney, a very famous attorney out of Michigan, who was charged with some type of federal crime, federal election crime. Okay. And when he told us that he'd be doing this case, I immediately thought, well, Jerry, this is going to be a loss for you. Because I just thought from the news that they had the goods on this guy, and this guy made a little mistake. Jerry told us later there was actually a weekend event where it was about the Figer trial. And he told us how he prepared for it. He said for about 18 months, he spent 12 hours a day. I think it was 12 hours, may have been 8 hours, but I'm sure he said 12 hours. 12 hours a day studying that case and preparing that case for trial. 18 months, 12 hours a day. I think he said 7 days a week. Have you ever prepared for anything that many hours? I know I haven't, right? Can you imagine if you did that? If you did that, you can safely say that you're probably going to win that case because you know more than anybody and everybody in that case. Guess what? The other side, the government, the federal attorneys, they probably didn't spend that much time on the case because they thought, like I thought, oh, this is a slam dunk against this attorney. So any case can be won. It's just a matter of do you and your attorney have the time and the money to pour into it? You know, how important is the case to you? How important is to the attorney? You know, the organization that I belong to, which is part of Jerry's organization, it's called the Trial Lawyers College. Okay? And I met a guy, he's in California, who does cases. He does, I think he told me 8 to 10 cases a year. That's all he does. Because he immerses himself in every case. So this is what he does if he takes your case. He goes and lives with you for about a month. Have you ever heard of an attorney doing that? Yeah,
No.
Claude, I'm going to come up. I'm going to live with you for a month. What better way to learn about your client? You ever think of that? Because when you're standing in front of the judge and jury and you're trying to tell the jury about something that you've never experienced about your client, their sixth sense kicks in and they realize, oh, this guy's bullshitting me. But if you live with the client for a month, right, and you are describing the day that the client has every day and what the injuries, you know, are resulting or affecting his life or her life, you really know because you were there. You were there trying to help him into the bathroom. You were there putting him in the bathtub. You were there because he couldn't wipe his ass. Now imagine somebody that has that type of preparation and knowledge compared to just an attorney who's being told blah, 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 blah.
Okay.
So it's all about time and effort. You know, the law is important. Yeah, it's important. It's not the most important thing. And everybody thinks that it is, and it's not. So please don't fall for that. Okay? And I know that's the only thing that you can basically latch onto now because it's on Google, it's on the internet. But that's why I told you before when we talked before, I said, you got to get an attorney. Because you're basically trying to do open heart surgery with no medical training. You don't even have the tools. You don't have the scalpel. You don't have an operating room.
I'm sorry. It was only upon your advice that I hired an attorney because I was dead set against hiring one because, again, DCF should do what's right and give us the child. So
yeah. If you're hoping that DCFS is going to do what's right, you got to lose, right? Because that's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And you know what they do? What also they do? they count on the fact that you can't get a lawyer. First of all, you probably can't find a lawyer that knows this area of law, right? Trying to find somebody like me, a guy or gal like me, that's like a needle in a haystack. Because not in terms of numbers, it's a very small percentage of lawyers that practice in this area on a private basis, right?
Absolutely.
So once you find that person, then you're going to have to make sure that that person knows what they're doing. And, there are private attorneys that do this, that have been in practice 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 25 years. Colette, I'm going to confess something to you. When I was a 10-year attorney, I thought I knew everything about everything. 10-year attorney. When I became a 15-year attorney, I realized something. It scared me that I didn't know anything. But I've been an attorney 10 years. How could I not know everything that needs to be done? It's more about experience. At least it is for me. I find myself doing a lot of consulting with attorneys and with clients, people like you, family members, because, I just have a lot of experience. I'm on a trial team on a case in Oregon. Okay, I'm in California, in Los Angeles. I'm on a case in Oregon and has 3 attorneys total. All right, 2 Oregon attorneys and me. I do the hearings and I'm going to do the trial, but they do everything else. And we talk almost every day. And you know what all they do? All they do is ask me questions. Like, how can we prove this? What do you think about this witness's deposition testimony? What would you do procedurally in terms of a motion? What would you do in terms of a motion in limine? Should we call this witness or not call this witness? So it's really, I'm just consulting with these guys. Only because, it's not because I'm a smart guy, because I'm not really a smart guy. I'm just average, right? But I have so much experience. Like, I don't know what you do for a living, but whatever it is, if you did it for 35 years, you'd be a freaking expert too.
Right.
Just from the sheer time on the job.
Real life experience.
Right. You mean you've seen, over the years, I've had a lot of attorneys that have worked with me and for me at my law firm. There's a large percentage of them that will call me maybe 2-3 times a year. And they will say, hey, Vince, I got this case, blah, blah, blah. What do you think I should do on it? Basically, they're calling me and asking me for strategy and my input, some kind of consulting kind of stuff. Only because I've been doing it so long. Now, am I always right? No. But I do have a lot of experience. So that's, Colette, I hope I answered your question.
You absolutely did.
Okay. Miss Truen, we have another guest. Hey, first of all, I want to say goodbye to Colette. Colette, I want to thank you for being on this evening. If at any time you have any questions, call Georgette, call me, and I'll get on the phone and talk to you about your case. I like you. You seem like a very nice person, and your case is unbelievable that this is happening to you.
Yep.
Can I believe it's happening? Yes, I can believe that it's happening because, CPS does some crazy stuff sometimes. We don't know what their motivations are.
Sometimes.
But if you ever want me to, talk to you, I'd be happy to do that. And I am definitely, don't forget to remind me and Georgette tomorrow to I'm going to call Kevin because I have his number, his cell number, and we're Facebook friends. I'll send him a Facebook message and say, "Hey, man, I referred you to somebody. You got to call her right now." Okay?
Thank you from the bottom of my
Oh.
heart. And Georgette, thank you so much for getting back to me.
You're welcome, honey.
Attorney Davis, you don't know how much I appreciate the fact that you took the time to talk to me tonight. Thank you both so very, very much.
You're very welcome.
You're quite welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, Miss Truen, we had another relative on the line. I don't know if I don't see her picture. Her name is Narita. Narita, are you there? Let me add her to the stream and see if she will come on. Narita, are you there?
Yes.
Oh, good, you're there. I can hear you. I can't see you.
Narita, where are you, young lady?
I'm right here. Oh my God.
Narita, you're making me look bad here, Narita. I told you what you needed to do.
I know. Here I am.
I saw a flash of light. Now, Georgette, Narita, are you like in a dark room by yourself?
Yes. Yes, because I have my grandson in the living room.
You can't turn on any lights so the audience can see you? There you are.
Hey.
There you are. How are you?
Not too good, but I'm here.
Okay, so tell me who you are and why you're on this show tonight.
Oh Lord. Well, I'm the grandmother of my daughter's daughter.
She's a maternal grandmother.
Yeah. Thank you.
And why are you here tonight with us?
Oh, because I had some questions.
Okay, go ahead.
It's first time
First of all-
being in the system, and I don't know how it works or what to do.
Okay, are you in California or another state?
In California,
Okay, so how long has the case been open with CPS?
March last year.
Okay, and is your granddaughter placed in a foster home?
With a relative.
Okay.
A mistake that I did.
Say that again?
A mistake that I did.
A mistake that you did?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so
'Cause
you
at first-
recommended them.
Yes, that's what I did. Because the worker asked me if I had a relative that I trusted, so it could be temporarily until I got approved or RFN.
Okay, so you want to get the child out of that relative's home and placed with you. Is that correct?
She was going to be there for temporarily. That supposedly it was going to be 6 to 4 months. And then the pandemic came and everything got delayed.
Okay, so I can't see your face, Narita, but you want the child placed with you now, right?
Yes, sir.
Does the relative who has the child, does that person agree to having the child placed with you?
Huh?
Georgette, can you help me out here?
Please.
Can you hear us? Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Are you nervous? Narita, are you nervous?
She's nervous. Yes, she told me she's gonna.
It's first time. I don't know.
There's nothing to be nervous about. You're on 8 different social media sites throughout the world, and
Thank you for
probably
telling her
millions of
that.
people are watching it.
You should not tell her that right now. Now she's gonna hide somewhere. She's gonna hide somewhere.
I mean, you know, it's being recorded. It'll be there on the internet forever. There's nothing to be
Oh my
nervous about.
God. Oh Lord.
Mr. Davis, there's one question that she really wanted to know. Okay, can
Okay.
you sue? Can you sue a social worker for false testimony under oath?
Yes.
There you go. She also gave me 10 questions. Okay, if I may.
Okay.
How can you get the court to take consideration my daughter and biological father's wishes for children placement?
Say that again. I didn't understand that.
How can you get the court to take consideration of my daughter's biological father's wishes for child placement? The father's wishes and the mother's to place the child with the grandma.
Okay. So both of their attorneys would have to file a 388 petition, as well as Narita, to
We
have the
did.
child placed with her.
She
We
did
did.
ask the attorney that, right?
Yeah, we did. But when we went to court, the social worker did her report, and that's when everything twisted, and they denied my 388 because of what she said about me.
Did you appeal that denial of the 388?
That's what I'm doing right now.
Okay. So you filed a notice of appeal to the higher court?
Yes.
Okay. So the other thing, you can sue the social worker. All right. Because social workers
But
are not
the
allowed
thing
to.
is that I reported her for how to call it,
Lying.
because she was telling me stuff that she didn't supposed to or something like that. And I don't know if
The
that's why
social
she's
worker
doing
made
it.
false statements against her, Vincent. On
What she should do is file a complaint and a claim against her. She should do what Colette is doing, file a complaint with the Department of Health and Human Services, and file a complaint with the Department of Justice, Civil Rights Division, and now I believe they have their own CPS division within that division, because these federal authorities are taking these complaints seriously and will investigate it.
But the thing is, if she did all her report and everything, right? All what she said that I was doing and everything, she shouldn't like take away my visitations if she thought that I was bad with my granddaughter or something.
Okay, I didn't understand that question. Georgette,
That the report that she did against me, if she saw all the what she talked about at court, she shouldn't like take away my visitations for what the reports that she did.
I don't think so. I mean, I don't know what the report's saying. I'm not asking you to say them, but if you
They're
had
bad.
visitation before the hearing, and you don't have visitation after the hearing, it sounds like some type of retaliation, and that's something that should also be reported.
I have visitations, but it now is like it was 2 times a week. First it was 3 times a week, and then it came to 2 days, and now it's like 1 day, and in a different place.
Are you friends with the relative that has the child right now?
She's a sister.
She's your sister?
Half.
So, okay, are you guys on good terms or not good terms?
Not anymore.
Okay. That happens frequently, unfortunately. She wants to keep the child when she knows that you, as the grandmother, want the child. You know,
She
interestingly enough,
knew.
I see this a lot. I see it a lot. You know, and it ends up breaking up families.
Vincent, if I may add, one of the calls I had today, it was a grandmother actually. Her daughter, which is the aunt of the grandchild, took the child from her by reporting the grandmother, which is her mother, to CPS. And she told her mother in a text message that I want that child to be with me. I want to make more money a year by the new rule, the new something that Biden put in place, making $3,700 when you have a child.
Oh my God.
So she actually put that in writing to her mother, and she reported her to CPS. The grandmother, I was on the phone with her. She took a snapshot of the text message and she texted to me. So she said, can they just do this? And her testimony is right there in writing in a text message. But the court appointed attorney and the social worker told her that's not evidence that she can use.
It definitely is evidence that she can use. Narita, do you have a court-appointed attorney?
Mhm.
No, because the case that is right now, no.
So I'm not, Georgette, I'm not sure what you're referring to.
Okay. People, I mean, Nardine, Noradia, I cannot say your name right. Noradia. Explain to Davis what your half sister is doing.
She's doing
And the reason she took the child, the real reason, really.
the real reason.
Yeah, we talked about it today. Why did she take the child from you? Why doesn't she want you to have your grandchild with you?
Because they can't have kids. And she married to a girl, and now they want to keep my granddaughter because I have 4 grandkids, and then why I want another one. And sorry.
It's okay.
And the worker told me that I have to touch my heart because my sister can have kids, so I can leave my granddaughter with her.
Mm-hmm.
And why I didn't like that before to leave my grandkid with the random person instead of a family. So this wouldn't be going on right now.
Well, Naridia, I'm very sorry for the predicament that you're in. You know, some of the hardest cases that I've been involved with are family members fighting each other. The case was well known. I did a case in Orange County. And when I first got on the case to represent the mother and the grandmother were a team, but the child was placed with the grandmother's sister, the mother's aunt. And the first thing and the very first meeting that I asked them was, why isn't the child placed with the grandmother instead of the grandmother's sister? They both responded to me as if, you know, that's family. We can get her back anytime. We don't want
That's what the worker told me.
Yeah, we don't want to address that right now.
Mm-hmm.
And over time, the worker convinced the grandmother's sister to keep the child. And she did that with a campaign of disinformation and the lure of money, because money's involved in this.
Mm-hmm.
That's in my situation right now.
Yeah, that situation tore that family apart, literally, because there were other siblings of the grandmother and the caretaker that were involved. And I became pretty good friends with the grandmother's husband, real nice guy, sweetheart of a guy. And to this day, there's animosity.
Mm-hmm.
And I always thought, well, maybe they'll work it out or something. But it went too deep. It went really, really deep. And the CPS involvement in the case, in my mind, it was tantamount to a crime. They did nothing to help this child. This became a struggle about power, about money, about ego, psychology. And the person that I think that's ultimately going to be hurt, or who was hurt, was the little kid. Was the kid. The funny thing was, not the funny thing, the sad thing was my client ended up getting back 5 of her 6 children. She didn't get back the baby. And we fought and fought, and we did not prevail in that case. I mean, other than getting 5 back, but, we wanted all 6. The judge allowed that child to stay with the grandmother's sister, and the grandmother's sister and her husband ended up adopting the child. So, these things happen. When somebody tells you, if you're a relative out there and you want a child placed with you, do not agree to allow that child to be placed somewhere else for a short period of time. That is a way of playing you to convince you to agree to something that is eventually going to be used against you.
Yes.
Do not do it.
Yeah.
Yes, now I know.
Now,
Right.
Ms. Davis, since she doesn't have, can she handle this case on her own with the help of an attorney instead of be able? No.
No. You see, the things that she has to do is going to take, in my opinion, my humble opinion, going to help take an attorney to help her get what she wants. I don't know, Neridia, if you could hear the last call or the last person on the show, Colette.
Yes.
There are just certain things that you, as a civilian, don't know how to do. You don't know the laws of evidence. You don't know the laws of civil procedure. You don't know the substantive laws, right? You don't know how to conduct a hearing, contested hearing. So, people want me to coach them or consult with them all the time. And I don't mind doing it. It's just that I can tell in the situation that they're in, they'd be better off with a lawyer. Because they're going to try to do something that they're not qualified to do. You might as well ask me, Georgette, hey, I got Dr. Jones over here. He's a real famous cardiac surgeon. He's going to coach you through doing open heart surgery on your mother. Is that going to work?
No, it's not. But my question, actually, Mr. Davis, if they do have a court-appointed attorney, but he or she is actually not even, if he or she is ignoring the evidence that the client has, and they're ignoring witnesses or what have you, and they're not calling them back, what have you, I get it. They're all busy. I understand that. But a lot of them actually don't really help them. And yes, they're free. They're pro bono, right? But it's useless. It's useless. And then when they do call other attorneys in other states, they don't want to help. They say it's conflict of interest, or we don't want to touch the state.
Right. Well, welcome to my world.
But how can people like that be helped?
Did you watch the news tonight, Georgia?
I actually haven't watched the news tonight because I work for you.
Turn on the news tonight and watch all the unfair things in life on the news. Happen every day. And they happen in this area of law. Unfortunately, you're asking, first of all, let's be fair for a minute. You have no idea what's really going on in this case. You've just heard one side of it. You haven't heard the evidence on the social worker side, on the minor's attorney's side, right? On the parent's side. You're just accepting what Nerita told you. Apparently, Nerita has joined us back. You just have accepted that.
I don't know what's going on.
Okay, so you don't know. Somebody's going to have to review that file for Nerita, come up with a strategy, and a plan, and implement it.
But the thing is that my daughter, she's in the hospital since she had her baby. And the thing is that they told me if my daughter was home, that I couldn't have my granddaughter. And that was a lie too. Because they didn't know where she was at or asked or nothing. I'm the one that gave them all the information.
Okay, well, if the social worker told you that, it's not necessarily true, because I tell people all the time, social worker can say anything. It's just a recommendation to the judge. Judge could follow it. Judge could decide not to follow it. Okay?
But the
So,
thing is that he approved me. In 1 month, everything twists. It was like he denied it because the report that she did.
right.
That's why he denied it.
Well, when you went to court for your 388 petition, did you have a lawyer?
Yes,
Okay, was it a private attorney or a court-appointed attorney?
I don't know.
Did
It
you
was
hire
from
her?
yeah, I hired her.
Okay, so you paid her money.
Yes.
Okay. So one of the things I would have to do is I'd have to review the report, review the evidence, sit down with you, and come up with a plan. I can't comment on whether your attorney did a good job or a bad job. I just don't know. All I know is you're here tonight because you don't have your grandchild.
Yes. Then
And
she
that's,
cries when I go see her, and I give her to my sister, and she cries because she doesn't want to stay.
Narita, this is what I want you to do, because we're running out of time. We're over 11 minutes over right now. But what I want you to do when we get off the phone is I'm going to have Georgette contact you and see if we can review some of your paperwork and see if we can give you some assistance.
Mm-hmm.
Because all I know for sure is that you don't have your grandchild, and I'm not sure why, right? I'm not sure what the evidence was against you. I'm not sure what evidence you could have brought forth to rebut it. When you had your 388 hearing, did you have witnesses for your side? Did you
Yes.
have exhibits for your side, the people that testified?
Yes. I had my daughter that she was with me the whole beginning before my granddaughter came.
Okay.
And I gave the lawyer all the information that I had, picture, video, and everything about what she was saying. She said that it wasn't important. It wasn't important. And when we were in court, I told her, I'm like, she's lying. I never did that. And she's like, shh, shh. And I'm like, why? I'm like, she's lying. Why not saying something?
Right.
And she didn't say nothing. And when we had the court, and she gave her sorry, when the worker gave her report, she left from court. She left. So I don't know. I think it's because she didn't want no my lawyer ask her stuff, or because she was asking her if she knew or if she did a report that checked whatever they was telling her, and she said no. And she's like, okay, so you're going for the advice that those persons are saying, and she didn't say nothing. She didn't say nothing. She stayed quiet. And then when she gave her report, she left. She was in a court, and I don't know why. And
So are you saying that the
she
social
don't have
worker
no
didn't?
evidence.
Are you saying that
Huh?
the social worker didn't get on the witness stand and testify?
When they gave her report, no, she left.
Okay. Anyway, Georgette, I want you to contact her. Narita, I want to thank you for being on the show this evening, and we're going to be talking in the future, see if we can give you a little assistance on your matter. But thank you for being on. Ms. Truan, thank you again for being a co-host for tonight. I want to remind everyone that tomorrow night, same time, same stations, we're going to be on the Fight CPS show, The Civil Rights Struggle. All right, and we're going to be talking about civil rights cases against social workers. All right, so thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you for tuning in, and we hope to see you tomorrow night. Good night, all.